There are some things that Pokemon fans can unanimously agree on. Some recent entries can be rather ugly looking. Power creep is definitely a thing. The Pokemon Company will still print money regardless, and Johto Pokemon are borderline garbage. Especially early on, I mean, look at this. Sure, there are some that have stood the test of time, but most of them are either evolutions of older Pokemon, pre-evolutions of older Pokemon, gimmicky creatures that are just all one-tricks, and all collectively can't reach that 500 base stat total, which most current-day Pokemon can reach that with no problem. So, to give a little love to the underdogs of the Pokemon universe, I decided to do a Hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Heartgold, only using those Johto Pokemon. It's fitting, but it's a little bit more difficult than you think. So in a Nuzlocke, if a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead and cannot be used further on. Items are also banned in battle, and one Johto Pokemon counter per route, among plenty of other rules. To add some spice to this challenge, I decided to ban evolutions of Kanto Pokemon like Crobat, Steelix, Umbreon, Espeon, etc., because they're usually better than the rest of the region anyways. Still around with 30-ish Pokemon to catch and use for the playthrough, we'll be sure to find uses for this game, Forgotten Misfits, and conquer the region they call their home. Our journey begins by picking one of the only 3 available fire types in the run. Totodile is good, but we'll encounter plenty of water types, and Chikorita is Chikorita, so welcome to the team, Alabama the Cyndaquil. We do the usual early game stuff for the Johto region, give the mystery egg to Oak, face the local state ranger for our region-wide adventure, and catch a few Pokemon, like Maine the Sentret on Route 29, Kentucky the Hoot Hoot on Route 30, a 1% Dunsparce I named Nebraska, Iowa the Spinarak on Route 31, and most importantly, Oregon the Mareep Who Could on Route 32. She will be our star player going forward. We also got a Slugma egg from Primo, but I don't think we're going to be using it for quite a while. I don't think there's a brain behind those Slugma eyes. Our first battle against Bulgur goes as well as you think, with an electric sheep would go. I use Thunder Shock over and over again until Faulkner decides to throw, almost get killed by a critical hit, but we're never punished by something like that, trust me. And that's badge number 1. Anyways, one unhatched Togepi egg later, and we gun it straight for Bugsy in the second gym, who actually is a little scary due to his scary Scyther with focus energy and a ton of rage. Thankfully, we have our secret weapon, that 1% named Nebraska. She has Yawn and Rollout, and she uses Yawn the first turn, while Scyther uses Focus Energy. Bugsy also decides to throw the match by just leering at us, before Scyther snoozes and Nebraska cruises. And it cruises all over Bugsy's dumb little bugs. Good job, Nebraska, we're electing you president. By a landslide. Before we can move on, the state trooper has to verify our identities, and tries to fight us because we may or may not be illegally having fake IDs on us. But before that, I catch a Hoppip on Route 33 named Georgia, who, well thanks to the new level cap, evolved into a less mediocre Skiploom. And about that state trooper fight, I thought he was going to lead with a Zubat, but it said it was Ghastly. But nothing but a slight blunder. Surely this mistake won't happen again, right? But Kentucky packs the Deadly Ghost, and Maine clutches up against the Deadly Croconaw by trading bites and retaliating with tackles and quick attacks. Before Georgia switches in and finishes the Croc off with a Bullet Seed, and then Zubat comes out and falls to our newly evolved Alabama. But that's the easy part. We have to deal with the dreaded Whitney. Little known fact, she is very challenging when not prepared well. Miltank is very scary, with a strong stomp, rollouts, and dumb tricks like falling in love with this stupid cow. But thankfully, I have a secret weapon, but I made a slight error when routing encounters. I was supposed to grab Skiploom on Route 48, but when I figured out that Route 33 exists, I caught it there. I was supposed to get a guaranteed Aipom in Route 33 to guarantee the Heracross and Azalea Town, but me and my flat brain realized that you can also catch Aipom on Route 46, so I backtrack and Kansas the Aipom joins to just fill up space in the box. Then we go off and catch Texas the Heracross. But this Heracross is special because he's lonely and he has guts. Literally. And if you don't know what that means, Guts is an ability that boosts the attack stat when you're inflicted with a status ailment, and by comforting the local Paris nation and hit the level cap of 19, we got the move Brick Break. And by gambling at the local casino for a metronome, that will also make repeated attacks stronger. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, let's just say it's virgin talk for being really strong. And with all this breath, we click break once on the Clefairy and she falls, and we have one chance to tip this cow over. All Texas has to do is not fall in love with a cattle. Fire up a grill because we're having smash burgers, because this Texas just sliced through this cow like an average Tuesday. Whitney pretty much has a good reason to cry, but to stop her crying, you have to hit the subscribe button now, because big numbers means better content. It doesn't really, I just like the numbers going up. On our way to Ekritique, we had a couple of new friends joining our squad. There's Maryland the Sudowoodo on Route 36, Rhode Island the Stantler on Route 37, Ohio the Miltank on Route 39. This Miltank doesn't get used at all because it may be thick, but it can't scrap. But with that encounter gone, we can get New Hampshire the Snubbull on Route 38. Granbull is actually a very strong Pokemon with Intimidate and a fantastic attack stat. Makes you wonder why no one uses it in Nuzlocks. Oh yeah, that's why. Yeah, 1% encounters is just the most annoying thing about Johto games. Just like how North Dakota the Yanma and Florida the Marill are also 1% encounters. I mean, we have to save room for important Pokemon like Massachusetts the Sunkern. Yeah. But of all the mediocre encounters, we can also go to Route 43 to catch Oklahoma the Giraffe-Rig, where he and a few others join against the battle against Morty and his ghostly ghost types. He leads with Ghastly and I lead with Oklahoma. I try an Agility Baton Pass strat, but I ended up getting cursed. Still, Psybeam ends up judge-shotting Ghastly and his first Haunter before Gengar comes up, and I just forget to click Baton Pass. I don't know why I didn't do that. I just, in the moment, I just forgot I used agility. But New Hampshire can handle this. He only gets trapped and put to sleep. Oh wait, that's bad. But Gengar's only attacking move is Sucker Punch. And I could just stall him out, but you know, New Hampshire just wakes up on turn 1 anyway. And 2 more bites finishes the leader, and we get our 4th gym badge. Easy peasy. The mid-game is rather slow and filled with more encounters. This time on the water. We caught a Quagsire in Union Cave named South Dakota, a Chinju named Louisiana on Route 27, and a Mantine named California on Route 40. I also caught New York the Natsu in the Ruins of Alph, but it's not going to get used for quite a while. But funny story, I was originally going to catch a Misdreavus in Cliff Cave, but my Yanma decided to get trapped with a Mean Look, and my only attacking move was Pursuits, and I might have killed it. The only reason I'm telling you this and not showing it is because, well, let's just say I forgot to hit record. But at least I didn't cheat. But no Misdreavus aside, Chuck is up next, and I'll be honest, this went really sloppy. I forgot the status Texas in the beginning of the fight, but a few Aerial Aces take out the Primate. But then Poliwrath comes out. Aerial Ace isn't enough for a 2-shot, and a Body Slam crit would kill me, so I switch it to California. He predicts me and puts me to sleep with Hypnosis. So I waste a few turns, and eventually I wake up, do a little damage with Wing Attack, but thinking I'm gonna get killed with another Body Slam, I switch it to the newly evolved Oregon. Then he predicts me again with another Hypnosis. Why? So I switch into Oklahoma on a Focus Punch, which would have just killed if it crit me. So thinking I'm gonna die again, I switch into my other newly evolved Georgia. But again, he puts me to sleep. 60% accuracy, by the way. So I switch into Kentucky, and to test my luck with Hypnosis. Granted, if I miss, I'm definitely dead, but frustratingly, I actually do it, and I don't get punished for it. And I switch back into Texas, definitely meant to click Hornitat, yep, not a misinput! But again, I'm not punished, and the stupid frog finally goes down a few Aerial Aces later. I could have done better, but like, why did Chuck use Hypnosis when he could have easily taken out 2 of my Pokemon? I won't understand this. This is something with the Gen 4 AI? But you know what? Who cares at this point? What follow afterwards is plenty of easy Rocket Front hideout shenanigans before we try and take down Bryce. But before I do that, I try to pick up a Pinecone at the Rate of Rage. I need it because it's the only available Steel type in Heartgold, and having a solid wall would fill up the team. Oh. Well, I thought rain stops Pokemon from self-destructing. Well, it does. In Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Guess I know that now. Thankfully, that slot on Route 48 was cleared up, and I was able to catch Delaware the Pineco, which quickly becomes a fortress and joins the battle against Price. Though I don't really use him. The Price fight is very easy. A Thunderbolt on the seal with Oregon takes it out, California easily takes the icy moves of the Swine and drowns the pig with a few surfs, and Oregon comes back out to shock the same way against Dewgong. And that's the 6th badge. And I follow up that quickly with Jasmine, which we just used South Dakota with the Choice Spec item, which locks you into one move only and increases the damage of that said move, and it drowns the steel types with Mudshot. Seriously, Jasmine stood no chance against the absolute terror that is South Dakota. But moving on, we have a lot more Rocket Grunk shenanigans in the radio tower, with only a few notable highlights. We use a fun Choice Spec strat with Petrol, and his team of Flowing Ball Tumors. We face the State Trooper again in the underground and— oh, now you send that bat out first! Got it! That makes perfect sense! I was predicting Scizor first, but I guess I misremembered, and that blunder almost cost me a few of my Pokemon because I had to dodge a couple of scary crits. But we go unpunished and face the remaining run, until I reach Archer at the top, where South Dakota almost just dies to Houndoom's Fan Attack. But we pull through and save the radio tower, and the worlds. I guess. But now we go off to Blackboard City for the final gym badge. But before we do, we catch our last encounters. There's Missouri the Remoraid on Route 44, North Carolina the Swinub on Ice Path, and Nevada the Fanfy on Route 45. I would have loved to catch Gligar here, but I guess we're not getting Gligar. Oh well. The first two join us against the fight against Clair, where she actually might be the first really big threat of the playthrough. Her team is no joke, especially that Sniper Kingdra, but I do have a cheeky strategy to help out just a little bit. She starts off with Gyarados and I lead Oregon. I get hit with a Dragon Rage before Oregon shocks the fish with a Thunderbolt. Next up is Claire's first Dragonair, where I switch Missouri on Thunderwave, which is a little bad because I'm not definitely not faster and have to risk getting paralyzed, and I may or may not also forgotten where to get some of the better berries. But we go on Punish and nail Dragonair with a Ice Beam for the one-shot, and the same fate happens with the second Dragonair. I know I'm risking Missouri's life with a crit or paralysis, but again we go unpunished, and finally the big Kingdra threat comes out, and I decided to burn all of its Hydro Pump PP. By switching into Delaware on a soft Dragon Pulse, I can protect on the next turn, use one of Hydro Pump's power points. Then I switch into California because it has Water Absorb to also burn said PP. I also tried to burn Dragon Pulse's power points by bouncing and at least trying to paralyze it, but to no luck. So I just rinse and repeat until Kingdra is out of Hydro Pumps. I also use Confuse Ray on the Seahorse, which actually helps out quite a bit, and things go smoothly until Kingdra decides to just use Hyper Beam on Delaware, which could have just killed at a crit. Thankfully, Delaware survives and I can switch to Texas for the last hit. But not before Kingdra uses Hyper Beam one more time. Oh my goodness, my luck in this playthrough is insane. Like, how many times have I avoided certain death in this run? It has to be a record. And that's badge number 8. Moving on to the endgame, it's pretty quick to report on. First is the Komodo girls and their evolutions, and the main strat I used is using Fortress to protect to see what they can do, then switching into another Pokemon to deal with them. And as for Ho-Oh, I stared at the literal sun god for an epic showdown! I did it! All is fine and good through Victory Road and the previous routes until I got stopped by the State Trooper for one last inspection. And things went a little off the rails. You see, the whole battle was going really well. I finally remembered what he sent out first, and I one-shotted 3 of his Pokemon with Oregon. Then this Kadabra came out. You see, I switched into Oklahoma to resist the Psybeams that Kadabra had, because I didn't get a Dark type. I tried catching a Murkrow in the Safari Zone, but that went as well as you thought I did with a Pokemon with a catch rate of 45. So I tried using Stomp, but then he used Disable, and that's when I remembered I was Choice Spec'd. So I was forced to struggle, and when I was low on health, in all of my infinite wisdom, I switched into South Dakota, and although it looked like I can survive, and a crit wouldn't kill me, a high roll crit does. And that's death number 1. Right at the doorsteps of the Elite Four. This death was 100% preventable. Had I switched to Alabama, I would have outsped and killed with a Flame Wheel. And honestly, I can't even complain too much about this death. Considering the luck I've been having with most of the important battles so far, this was bound to happen. Quagsire was actually one of the better Johto Pokemon, and I lost the potential Ice Beam user, which is pretty bad, but in the end, what can you do? You make mistakes. The rest of the fight was pretty easy with Alabama, but it still hurts to lose such a valuable member right before the final battles. But we can't mourn for too long, because we have plans for the Elite Four and the champion. So, here's our final team, leveled up to the level cap of Karen's Ace Houndoom. This team is good, but without good checks to Psychic and Dragon types, we might be in for some trouble. Regardless, let's show off this skeleton crew to the famous Kanto Elite Four. First up in the Elite Four is Will. He leads with his first Xatu, and I lead with Oklahoma. I equipped Oklahoma with the choice specs for Thunderbolts through KO Will's first 2 Xatus, while only getting hit by a soft Psychic. Executor comes out next, and I switch into California on the Reflect. Couple of Ice Seeds and a Whiffed Egg Bomb later, and now Jinx hits the field. Jinx is actually pretty scary with a Lovely Kiss and a Stab Psychic, but I switched into Alabama on an Ice Punch. Jinx does scare me with a Psychic, but thankfully it doesn't crit, and 2 Flame Wheels able to take out this weird-looking creature. Finally is Lowo, but Louisiana handles her with 2 Thunderbolts for victory number 1. Koga is thankfully a lot more simple. He leads with Ariados and I lead with Alabama to cleanly knock out the spider. Then Fortress comes out next and shares the exact same fate. And then Muck comes out, and players will remember this minimizing, spamming nuisance of a pile of sludge. But North Dakota doesn't care about evasion strats and buries the slime ball with an earthquake. Then Venomoth comes out and poisons my Alabama as it gets it by another flamethrower. And finally, Crobat falls to my Oklahoma, who doesn't care about evasion strategies either. That is victory number 2. And I would talk about Bruno next, but Oklahoma literally sweeps through Bruno's whole team with Choice Spec Psychics. Never doubt the sheer power of a horse with 2 heads. Or 1.5 heads in this case. That's victory number 3. Lastly is Karen, and she's definitely the biggest threat of the Elite Four. Her lead Umbreon gets smashed by a close combat from Texas, which leads straight to Murkrow. Not liking the potential odds of Houndoom coming out next, I switch into Louisiana, and he eats a Soft Pluck and a Feint Attack as we crush the Crow with a Thunderbolt. Next up is Vileplume, and she's easily dealt with by Alabama by using Flamethrower, and Gengar's up next, and with Focus Blast and a Grow Special Attack stat, I might have to take some risk with Oklahoma. But Gengar just ends up missing Focus Blast for the clean Psychic KO. But then Houndoom is up last, and I'm scared. A single Nasty Plot could literally just delete my whole team. So it's all up to California to eat a Dark Pulse for some decent damage. But then Houndoom uses Nasty Plot. After that, California hits a Surf. Although it doesn't kill and activates Houndoom's Citrus Berry, I think one more is able to kill it though. But if Dark Pulse high rolls or crits, or California low rolls Surf, this might actually just lead to a wipe. Houndoom uses Dark Pulse. He lives, and we use Surf for the clean 2-shot, baby! I seriously don't understand this luck going on today. It's actually crazy. But after that, we can finally head down to face the champion of the region, Lance the Dragon Master. Let's see what happens in this final battle. He leads with Gyarados, and I lead with Oklahoma. I was hoping to outspeed with all the levels I've gained, but Gyarados still outspeeds and hits a nasty waterfall that thankfully doesn't flinch. And 1 Thunderbolt later, and Gyarados is down. But then Aerodactyl comes out next. And I don't have a safe switch into this thing. With this type of moveset, I actually can't afford anyone taking chip damage. So unfortunately, Oklahoma has to fall to a crunch. But Louisiana can come in for the revenge kill after tanking a Rock Slide that also doesn't flinch and also misses on the first turn. With Aerodactyl down, it's 5v4, and my odds aren't good after seeing his highest level Dragonite hit the field. With Outrage and a high attack stat, any wrong choice could lead to devastation. But it's Alabama I sent out to take one for the team. Although it's my starter, I have to put his life to an end. He does survive an Outrage, and I try to burn with Lava Plume, but to no avail. And so my longest living teammate falls to the endgame. But now we send California out on the now confused dragon, so hopefully he gets hit by confusion, of which he does, and Espeon can get the clean one-shot. Oh no, it does not get the one-shot. Dragonite, please, you gotta hit yourself in confusion again. Oh, he hits himself in confusion again. We got way too lucky there once again. I can't understand what's going on. But the fight is only halfway done because the second Dragonite comes out. I figured that this is the Thunder one, so I switch it to North Carolina, but instead of Thunder, it's a Mist Dragon Rush. Lucky again. And also lucky again from another with Dragon Rush. And after a few turns of ice moves later, the second Dragonite falls too. Charizard is up next, so I switch Louisiana on another Mist Fire Fang. Lance's Pokemon seem to have garbage luck today. Unfortunately, I sent Louisiana out to die because this Charizard is physical, and California can't take it. A Surf brings the lizard down to half close to death, and Shadow Claw brings an end to Louisiana. California finishes him off with another Surf, and the final Dragonite comes out. And I also have to let this fish go, so we have to do something safe to switch into my Pylosaur. But it's all down to North Carolina, and have to use 2 Ice Shards to beat the final boss. All he has to do is survive 1 Dragon Rush. And North Carolina survives, and with 1 final Ice Shard, we claim victory over the champion of the region. Man, this fight got way too close, and I honestly don't think I should have survived with the amount of luck and misses. If Lance just hit a few more of his moves, we would have definitely lost. And although this is the end of our Johto journey, we still have 1 final trainer to take on. But not before heading to the Kanto region to establish our Johto pride. Along the way, we do pick up a few new encounters, namely Wyoming the Murkrow on Route 16, Alaska the Houndour on Route 7, and Hawaii the Quillfish on Route 12. And this will be the part where I go over the Kanto gyms, but most of them are so easy and I didn't even struggle with any of them. Sabrina, Erica, and Brock were all single-handedly dealt with by 1 Pokemon, and it would be redundant to talk about every single one of them. Notice how I said most of them. The 8th gym leader, Blue, is actually quite difficult, and I'll show you how that fight went off. He leads with Executor, and I lead with Alaska. 1 flamethrower is enough to take that guy down, laying to Rhydon next. Now he could either go for Earthquake or Stone Edge because he sees the kill with both those moves. The safest switch is to go into my newly evolved Nevada. I guessed right because he goes for Stone Edge, and thankfully no crit happened. And a couple of Earthquakes after Blue heals, and the Rhydon goes down. Gyarados is up next, and I switch Oregon on a pretty hard waterfall. And thinking that I had to avoid a crit, or Oregon just clutches up with a quick Clop Rock, and I just zap the fish to extinction, thankfully not facing any more Gyarados this run. Then there's Machamp, but I switched to my new New York, or also known as my Zatsu, on an Earthquake, then a Choice Spec Psychics takes the KO. But then there's Blue's Arcanine. This beast is a lot scarier than I could have ever imagined. I switch into Hawaii on a pretty hard Flare Blitz as a Surf doesn't even KO. Considering I'm low on HP, I have to switch, otherwise I die to an Extreme Speed. But stupidly, I switch into Alaska thinking I could take an Extreme Speed. But I take way too much from 1. So now I'm actually in a situation where I can just wipe to this 1 Fire Doggo. So my main strategy to get out of this one is just to drain Arcanine of all of its extreme speed power points. So after that, Alaska can actually outspeed and take the Arcanine out. I first switched to New York, who won't be useful after the fight after all, then will fall to 2 extreme speeds. Then I switch back and forth from Texas to Alaska to drain another extreme speed, while also baiting in Flare Blitz to deal no damage. Extreme speed does a lot to even Heracross, and stupidly I actually poison him even though I'm not really going to be using him in this fight. But finally, I can switch into Nevada after the last extreme speed usage, but I'm still going to need a sack. So I decide that Hawaii's life is for the taking. And that's kind of sucky because that's my, 4th water type gone. And after that, Alaska can KO with a Dark Pulse. That was tough, but unfortunately, Blue still has his Pidgeot. And I thought that this thing could use something like Mirror Move or something like that. But no, I just switched into Oregon on a return and but he just completely kills him from half HP. Not even giving it static. And that's the other MVP of the run, down for the count. Desperately, I try to switch into Nevada to try to outspeed, but to no luck. And now I just wipe to a dog and a bird. I guess I just have to use Flamethrower and see what happens. But somehow, against all odds, Alaska gets a critical hit with Flamethrower for the one-hit KO. Now, I was going through this entire game without using calculations because I couldn't really find the gym leader's IVs online anywhere. But even with 0 IVs into Pidgeot or full IVs, a critical hit was mandatory to survive. Now, I don't even think Heracross would have even outsped, but my point still stands. And I admit, this fight was incredibly sloppy. I should have just sacrificed Xatu to the Arcanine at the start of the battle so I can at least get some chip damage with Flare Blitz, and how I can either use Hydro Pump or Surf to just, you know, do a little bit more damage. Or I should have brought Fortress to eat those extreme speeds and protects, but no, I prioritized raw power instead of careful defense, and I deserve the great punishment of being called a scrub in the comment section. But I'm only allowing the word scrub, nothing else. But okay, maybe stupid or dumb, but that's the insult I'm taking. But we still have one more challenge, and that's Red at the top of Mount Silver. And since we lost so many crucial Pokemon, the snowball effect is pretty bad. I mean, I can check most of Red's Pokemon, but then there's Blastoise, who, with his insane coverage moveset, could literally sweep my entire team if I'm not careful. But fortunately, I get a few final tricks up my sleeve. First is Illinois the Larvitar in Mount Silver Cave, who quickly evolves into a Tyranitar, and a quick trip to Cerulean Cave where I catch a Wobbuffet who I dub Ye Virginia. Oh, I also caught a Sneasel named Colorado, but he's there for moral support. But even with that, we are still ready for whatever happens in Mount Silver. The run ends here, either way. Red leads with Pikachu and I lead with Illinois. A good timeline miss from an Iron Tail leads to a quick kill on Pikachu with a single Earthquake, leading into the big threat, Blastoise. So I switch Virginia on another whiffed move, that being Focus Blast. You know, for being called Focus Blast, it tends to not, well, focus onto the target. Anyways, Virginia's main goal is to just eat special moves from Blastoise and retaliate with Mirror Coats. But instead of Hydro Cannon like I predicted, he opts for Blizzard, so we have to avoid a freeze. But thankfully, Blizzard doesn't freeze, and now Blastoise is into healing range thanks to the Sandstorm chip. After that, I set up Safeguard so we don't have to worry about freezes, only crits. And surprisingly, no crits in this battle against the turtle. A few Mirror Coats later, and Blastoise is gone. And after that, the battle is almost already won. Snorlax comes out, and I have to sacrifice Virginia to the big round fella, as Heracross cleanly comes back in and one-shots him with close combat. Then Charizard is up next, so I switch back into Illinois, but instead of hitting the 80% accurate Stone Edge, I just don't. So I set up Stealth Rocks instead for the few mons that are left. So I sacrifice Illinois after Flare Blitz chips Charizard's HP a little bit lower. So I switch into Missouri, and that was actually another mistake because Missouri is much slower, and I have to avoid a flinch from Air Slash. But she avoids it and takes the Lizard out with a Surf. Venusaur is up next, and I just leave Missouri out to die once again, so I can send out Alaska for the clean Flamethrower kill. All that's left is Lapras. But instead, I just let Alaska fall to a brine from Lapras to switch in my good Heracross buddy for one final close combat to seal Lapras' fate, even after a full restore. And with that, we claim victory over Red, and the run itself. Whew, as someone who actually doesn't do Nuzlocks, I like to think I did pretty well. You know, aside from a few sloppy fights towards the end. But hey, I managed to only lose Pokemon to only 4 trainers. Granted, most of them were 4 each, but my point still stands. And I do have a newfound appreciation for these Johto Pokemon, especially some of the weaker ones. But I think that'll do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this little challenge, and hey, maybe I might do more Nuzlocks in the future. Maybe they might go better, actually. But anyways, that's it for this video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.